With the garden update having been released, a lot of you are currently building farms, so I wanted to do this video to talk about what I've learned the last about 8 months of building farms and doing hundreds of contests. And so the designs I'll be presenting today are the optimized designs that I came up with. Some of them I took heavy inspiration from. Some of them I did some tweaks to improve a couple of things here and there, so I'll be walking through that. This is the Katapult for Katapult Gaming, and welcome to my guide to efficient farms. In previous videos, a few of you commented on the resolution of my game here, so I've made a few changes, bumped this up to 180p and went with a better resource pack specifically for Hypixel. So please let me know in the comments below if you prefer this look and feel, or if you have a different resource pack you recommend, please let me know. First thing I'll talk about is the look of the barn over here. So you can purchase different skins that you can apply to your barn. This one is the castle that costs 15,000 coppers, so it looks pretty cool, but it has no effect at all other than the look and feel, looking more like a manor house instead of the other one. And then you'll see that the stuff inside gets moved around too. So now we have the visitor log over here, and the visitors are waiting inside, better protected. You have your desk over here, and your composter is over here. So I'll go in more details on every floor that I have here, but just wanted to show kind of an overview that basically I have one layer for each type of crop, and this is 1 plot wide and 5 plots long. So not all of these farms are infinite yet. I'll be doing a couple of expansions in the near future, but all of these are plenty sufficient to get a gold medal for every crop. Before we go too far into this video, I do want to address, so this is not the only farm design that is good. There's some other ones out there too that are just, I would say, equally good. Some prefer the vertical farms. I prefer them more horizontal. Makes me feel a little less claustrophobic on the farm. But the disadvantage with these ones is you have to be a tiny bit more attentive when you're farming, but still very easy to watch YouTube or do something else at the same time without too many issues, but definitely not as semi-AFKable as some of the other designs would be. And the other part too is when it comes to the farming method, there's a lot of different ways that people can farm, and I'll just give a couple of brief examples over here of what that could look like. So I have my speed at 400, which is the highest I can go, and let me just take a wheat hoe to give a comparison. And so you can definitely go and do one row at a time, and if you don't sprint, you'll be good, but basically ideally you could go all the way up to 464, or I believe if you do 257 and you sprint, then yeah, that would be again, no waste, but very fast way to farm. So this can definitely work, but you bump into the wall at the other end pretty quickly and pretty abruptly. So the next option is to do diagonal and do 2 at a time. And so if we go this way and do, takes a little bit sometimes before you get your bearing when you start on the first row, but after that you're all aligned and good to go. And so you slow down your speed and you do 2 at a time. Basically the result is the same. The game limits you to, there's 20 ticks per second basically in Minecraft Java by default, And basically that means that you can harvest 20 crops per second, and that's going to be the cap no matter what running speed, or if you do 1, 2, 3 or multiple at a time. If we try let's say 152 diagonally, and if you get the angle right, you can actually do even 3 layers at a time, which again, it's all the same in terms of farming speed. You might say, oh yeah, you're getting 3 at a time instead of 2, or instead of 1, but you're getting slower, and so you're still getting more or less about the same amount of blocks per second, and the same amount of wheat per second, per minute, per hour, however you want to count it. So very minimal difference between all of these. And so at the end, it's also a question of comfort and how easy it is for you to get a line and get farming on the next row. So I'm used to doing 2 at a time, so for me getting that third row aligned, you'll see I kind of zigzag a lot in the beginning before I get the right angle and the right alignment on the track. But after you're all set and good to go, and you hit that perfect 135 degrees, then you're good to go till the end. So the wheat and potatoes fields, you'll notice that they both take only half the plot, and carrots basically the same too. I could have ended the carrots over here, and the other half of the plot don't really have a use for it at this time. So maybe in the future, if they add beets or something else, they'll have a spot over there. But for the moment, basically half a layer, 5 plots long of both the wheat, potatoes and carrots are sufficient. And same thing with the cocoa beans farm I have up there, and I'll get to in the future. The other part that you'll notice is I basically have 8 rows of dirt between the lights and the water rows. Main reason that I go for that is to really save on the real estate and make it easier to have all these infinite or at least big enough farms to get the gold medals. But these crops here again are infinite farms, so by the time you're done harvesting all the wheat, you can go back to beginning and keep harvesting. And the method I use is basically run at roughly 45 degrees and go all the way till the end, and then turn around and keep going. And this is where basically using the 5 plot long farms really helps with the efficiency. That it means that you have less need of turning as frequently. So if you did everything all on one plot and did like maybe 3 or 4 layers of wheat all on the same plot, you could definitely build an infinite farm that way, but you'd be spending a lot of time turning around. Whereas in this case here, you can just go straight, and when you're not talking and actually focusing on the farming, that can go pretty quickly. And same thing with the transitions here. This time I talked as I was thinking of what I was going to say next and planning kind of the next step of the video. But frequently I wouldn't do an abrupt stop like that. I'd probably just kind of go like this here, and you just keep farming and don't lose a beat. The other thing too that you'll notice is I'm not hitting any walls in my back. Some people will do only 4 rows of wheat and have walls on all the sides. I find it's really not necessary. You can stay pretty straight pretty easily. If you have a mod that gives you the yaw like I have on the left there, that can be a guide to guide you through. But I find after doing this for hundreds of hours that, just going by instinct, and you can kind of feel when you're crooked and not really going in the right direction. And, sometimes if you make a little mistake, you might lose a crop here or there. Like I did a small zigzag here in the beginning, but really not that big a deal, I find. So I'll skip the carrots and potatoes because basically it's the same thing. You just change from your wheat hoe to the other hoes. And these floors I do at 228 speed. The next one that I'll show is the pumpkins and melons that all use basically the same layout. And these ones is, you know, 4 layers of dirt, and then you have the water and the lights on top. And one difference that I do here for optimization is I actually don't put the half slabs on top here like a lot of people do. And basically the reason for that is I run on the side over here instead. Because if you put the slabs, and my old farm on the main island used to be like that, you had to run down the middle of the lane here. And if you lag, you would hit the melons that would slow you down. Or if there's some ghost artifacts where the melon seems to disappear, but it's in fact still there, then you would kind of bump into something and you'd have to jump and go around it, and you know, it would be both frustrating and waste a little bit of time each time. So I find that just going on the side over here and going up straight, that saves a lot of that time and frustration. So just as we did with the other one, I would run like this till the end. And this farm is not fully infinite at this width, so I would have to go probably not a full plot wider than this, so go 5x2 instead of 5x1. Not quite to that extreme, but by the time you get to the end, most of the first row will have reappeared or regrown, but not fully. So it's, again, if you know, sufficient enough to keep going and get very easy gold medal with melons. You can probably easily beat the minimum for gold by over 100k melons with this design. But you know, in the future I'd like to expand this, and you know, I figure probably if I went till around here, the melons and pumpkins would be infinite. So next up we have the sugarcane, and one of the biggest differences I do here is the guide rails at the end. So basically that makes sure that as you hit the end of a row here, it sends you off in the right direction, and that allows you to you know, very easily keep going and not have to keep looking for your bearings. So you know, if I were farming kind of like this, and this is the one where I'll probably take more the time to set my angle right before I go full speed. And if you have a mouse that you can adjust the sensibility, or some people will change the buttons and have the spacebar as the clicker instead, so they don't even touch the mouse. But you know, if you can adjust the sensibility of your mouse, I find it pretty easy to keep it at or near 45 degrees, even with using 2 hands. So no issues with this one here. And again, this is a layer where you're probably gonna run out by the time the contest is over, but you can come back to the beginning and keep going and not have any issues. And in my case, I have just a pumpkin farm is set up basically with these, and then I can go from the start to the end of the farm. So if I hit the end of the farm here, or even if I'm on a different layer, then I'll just come back to the pumpkins here, so I can go there. And they seem a tiny bit buggy on the garden, probably something they're gonna fix, or maybe it's because I have these other things here. In the future, I intend to expand this plot here and make it kind of a balcony for each of these crops and make it as a kind of a staging area to just come in, teleport, and be able to quickly walk to the farm that I need. Next up is Cacti, and this one here, it's where we'll be adjusting the speed more. So in this case, I do 400 because that's the fastest I can do with the ranger boots and the equipment that I have. If you can do 500, that would probably be worth trying. And here I'll go, you can go maybe exactly 180 degrees, or I might go, tilted a little bit towards the direction that I need to go. And as I'm farming, it doesn't look like much is happening. Kind of visually, the cacti, they break weirdly. But if we look backwards, it does a very clean cut of 2 at a time at this speed. And basically, if you're going nearly the 180 angle, you'll be going pretty quickly. If you're starting to go sideways too much, it'll slow you down and you'll be kind of wasting time. But basically, again, I did some guardrails at the end here, so I know when I go in this direction that I hit the wall, and that way I always enter in the right lane to go to the next piece. And then when I go to the other end, the end is designed slightly different because both sides are kind of different, where in this case, you go around the cacti to go to this side, but when I go on the other piece, you'll see it's a smaller thing there, but it makes it pretty easy and convenient to switch sides and angle afterwards. So definitely something I would recommend. So if you're building a cacti farm, 4 wide on the cacti is the best design that I find, and just simply sand on top of it here, and probably overkill on the lights, but I wanted to do something fun and practical here. Cocoa beans, the biggest thing here I do is I always break the first 2 rows over here. So if you're in the middle of a contest or something, or you have to go away and you want to come back and keep going where you were, you can just quickly go sideways and see, let's see if I were at this row over here, then you can enter from the side. Because if you had cocoa beans all the way till the end, they would block your entry, and then you'd have to go all the way in the beginning or the end. And then I'm just gonna switch to my cocoa chopper, and I'll be changing my speed. Probably let's try something around 155 is pretty good. Sometimes I'll go all the way to 170 depending how I'm feeling, but at 155 you do a really clean cut and don't waste any of the cocoa bean space that you have. So you just pick an angle. At this speed you don't really have to be precise. I know some people obsess over is it 30 or 40 degrees or whatever, but you kind of go and you experiment, and after a while just looking at the screen you can kind of tell that you're at a good angle, and then when you look back everything looks clean, so you know that you're doing it right. And again, just go like this, and very easy to get a gold medal with this design. So this is very similar to the default setup that the game has, and this is actually probably one of the better setups that it does. The bigger difference is I add overkill on the lights on the bottom of the farm here, and then again some lights on top here, so I want to make sure that these are very well lit up. And then I have this indicator here, basically, that when I did a trial, is I harvested all of those up the way till here, and then at that point the first row was completely regrown. I could have done a little bit less, probably somewhere around here. It was like 99% full, but you know, in the, let's say, the 2 plots about that you can see here, there was maybe 1 or 2 bean per plot that weren't regrown, and so it took like easily 4 or 5 groupings more to finally have it fully regrown and fully infinite. But just for the look and feel, I kind of prefer to have it go fully till the end. So for the Netherworks, I'm gonna switch back to my regular speed of, let's go this time with 232, since I'll be going sideways. I'd go probably 228 if I was doing diagonal, but basically you just set up your speed and you face it, and kind of like the Cacti basically is a similar technique that I would be doing here. You just can't go as fast with the Netherwort as you would with Cacti, unfortunately. But yeah, basically you go that way, and when you look back, see a pretty clean cut over here, kind of going over a little bit on the other side, so maybe could increase the speed a little bit more to make sure that you don't clean up the other side, and then you kind of waste time when you go on the other end. And I'd say this is definitely a farm where I'd like to expand for another full plot, because when you're done with this one, definitely hasn't regrown, but still works pretty good. So for the mushrooms, this is another one where you're gonna want to go full speed. So you can do 400, or if you have a racer helmet or something, you can go to 500 speed instead. Now I went with this design, which gives you both type of mushrooms. There's a slightly different design where it gives you all red, which money-wise is probably better, because the red mushrooms are more valuable. But I like to have both because you get a lot of visitor requests for both red and brown mushrooms, and basically I like having both farms. So when I harvest this, I basically click the sprint button as soon as I seem to be going in the right direction, and you just harvest them. If you see that you're leaving mushrooms behind, usually it's the angle that you're using isn't quite right, and then when you hit the end, you can switch over to your different mode on the fungi cutter. So basically that's what the goal of the end was over here, where it gives you a little stone platform that you can do that without messing up your plot, and also something easy to walk on to get to the next one. Something I might do here is I might do some guides to send you down the right road after you've harvested a row here. And other than that, yeah, you just keep going, and you can either alternate, as I did over here, or if you want at the end, you could just go down on the other next row of red mushrooms instead. And this is one that, again, plenty sufficient to get your gold medals in mushroom in, and in fact you can easily get over 50% of the minimum for gold. Really easy crop nowadays if you have the right gear and everything for it. But basically, yeah, this is a good farm to go till the end, but once you reach the end, it's definitely not infinite. So when you come back to keep going during a contest. Not all the mushrooms will be regrown, but still a good amount of them. So this is the other layer that I'm mostly looking forward to having the other end extended to. So the way that I built these is I built one plot fully till the top there. And then if you look, plot 1 is my original. And then when you like the way that your plot looks, you can save the preset. And that's going to ask you to give it a name. And then you click on the paper here, and it's going to save your preset. And then when you go to a different plot, you can use any of the presets that the game has created, or you can use one of the presets that you've saved. So basically that allows you to copy your farm very quickly. So you build it on just one plot. In my case, I use plot number 1, and then you copy it over. And in my case, after I am done with these ones, I started unlocking plot 9, and basically I'll unlock all of the back row, which will take some time, but already have a decent amount of compost, so I'll be able to unlock either 13 or 14 shortly. And I do plan on playing, to keep farming for a good amount of time, so this will give me something to look forward to. So if you'd like a deeper tutorial on how I go about to build these farms, please let me know. I can go over all the new and the old tools for building, like the ruler and wand and all of those amazing things that make it quick and easy to build a farm like this. The whole thing probably 6 to 8 hours. You could probably reproduce most of this pretty quickly. The bag of seeds is amazing now. The new upgrade that they did for that, you can do basically all the crops except the Netherworks has its own bag, but that's been fixed too. So all of these you can place down. Even the cocoa beans, the cacti, all that you can place down just with a couple of clicks. It's really, really amazing compared to having to plant all of this by hand as we did in the old days. Thank you for watching this video. Please remember to like, share with a friend, subscribe. Have a great day, and I'll see you next time.